Hey everybody, I do think I'm live. We shall see. Okay, we are live. Think audio should be pretty decent as well. I checked beforehand, but you never know. Get this set up so I could try to see my screen and the chat at the same time. All right, so what we have is an NES top loader that I got off eBay for Mike Chi. He's been borrowing my other friend's NES for Lumacode. So I told him I would make him one because I also wanted to do a live stream because it's supposedly just as easy as dropping this over and soldering it on in the right direction, of course. So we'll figure that out. You might notice it's already been disassembled, and that's just because I know my luck. I bought this on eBay, and it was quote unquote tested and working, and it wasn't. It had the blinking light issue, which is why I got that 72 pin connector, which is the post that's up on RetroRGB right now. So let's, I guess, let's do a quick test of this. I'll put this here. I have rearranged my setup a little bit since the last live stream because I thought it was just kind of annoying that you all had to stare at a little tiny 8-inch monitor up here. So I tried to have everything a little bit more streamlined and where it should be so you could see everything. Hopefully it looks okay, and hopefully it's going to be good enough at least. We probably won't be needing the scope today. And even when I do use the scope, I was always standing in front of it. So at least now you could have a better view, and the scope plots I always end up putting in stream anyway. So I think small change to the setup, small change that somehow took like 2 hours. There's so much stuff in here. I guess that's the downside of being efficient is when you tie everything together, you have to untie it to get it back out. Okay, plugging this in. And let me grab, where did I stash my NE? Oh, right here. See if I can get away with doing it like this. All right, would need to actually be. Yeah, so you can see it's working. Uh, it looks exactly like a jail bar filled NES should. And believe it or not, we actually don't need to even fully disassemble this. Like I didn't even need to take these bolts out. I did actually for the cartridge connector. So that's a kind of cool thing because you don't need to desolder the PPU, which is the biggest difference in this one. I think in my opinion. Hey Kalka, what's up, Dr. Claw? Essential nonsense? Yes, this should be pretty easy. John Zini, yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to do a more formal video on this at some point soon, but I really do hope more people understand what you get with Lumacode, because if your target is HDMI anyway, it's essentially a super easy HDMI mod. Well, let's find out if it's super easy. All right, so the first thing the Copper Dragon suggests is isolating the PPU area, and I have some Kapton tape that I saved just for these special purposes. And all right, I'm just triple checking the instructions, which are in the description. Let's pull this over, realign the camera. A little bit of shaky cam here, folks. All right. So it's let's see, is this long enough? Yep, and I gotta shave some off the sides. Should have used my longer scissors. Somebody in the chat's asking about if you don't want to use a flash cart, can you do like a one at a time NES flash? And I think those exist. I just am not really sure which is the best one to use, and you would have to deal with the mapper issue. Meaning, like, any games with custom chips in it, you wouldn't really be able to play. That is oddly spot on. To the point where I'm going to get my other glasses, because there's no way I got that on the first try. Yeah, I need a little bit more over here, but whatever, I could just add that. That was like the luckiest tape placement I've had in a while. All right. Now, of course, I can't find. Here we go. All right, I'm going to grab my, because I'm old and need like 5 pairs of glasses to do everything now. No, it was close, but no. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get it on the first try. And I am being a little bit pedantic about this because it's like, could you imagine if everything worked out perfect, but there's just a tiny little solder bridge or a tiny little bridge that shorted something out? So, yeah, I think now is the time just to be extra careful. Use the exact size tape and the exact length and go from there. Greetings from an elevator. Right, let's try this again. You know, this Kapton tape, if I position it just right, might not need trimming. Oh, okay. Well, I'll take it. Yeah, cool. Okay, and then it's positioned with the ground and Luma over here. And is the Kapton tape getting in the way at all? No? I don't think so. Let me... Hey, Kazan. The dull end, not the sharp end of a knife. I'm sure you all probably knew that, but, you know. Yeah, I think that's basically it. I don't really need any more isolation here, so I could trim some of this down, just for looks. Alright, I guess time to start soldering. So the one thing that I also wanted to try, oh wait, hold on, I gotta reach. Yeah, of course everything goes flying. Where'd that go? All right, the one thing I also wanted to try as well is making this a complete no-cut mod and doing something like running this wire up through the RF switch hole over here. The only problem is the wire that Copper Dragon includes in the kit is thin enough that it basically fits between the pins on the board, and this one isn't. So we might be doing some surgery here in a bit, but we'll see. And I don't even know if this dangle idea is going to work or not. We'll find all of that out shortly. So let's just jump in and give it a try. Let me just quadruple check on the instructions. Yeah, ground and Luma are facing the right side where like the controller port inputs are. And you could skip everything in... I'm going to solder them all. I think the way Copper Dragon has it now is you only have to solder everything that's circled. But if you don't know which is which, you could just do all of them and it won't matter. So I might just do all of them. We'll see. I am going to have to adjust this a little too. Oop, on. Waiting for that one to dry to tack that side down. Go on the other side. All right, and the rest should be easy. Watch out for those surface mount components. All right, let me, everything's going smoothly so far. Let me zoom in just to see. Dr. Lilo, yes, absolutely. You could fit an HDMI board right here, and I have the kit somewhere to do exactly that. But it's limited to 1080p, and you don't get any other options. So it's one of those things that the average person who's using this might just want to use the RetroTinker OSSC that they already own. But let me see here. Hold on, I might actually have it. Yeah, hold on a second. I shall show you. I believe this is the kit that you would need. And that would connect, I think, to like a Pi Pico or something. And you could mount it internally. So that's something that's possible, but I would only really suggest that for the scenario of like the only console I have that I want to plug into my flat panel is the NES, and that's it, and nothing else. Which is cool. That's the just being honest. All right, let me finish this up real quick. If you're a beginner at this, you want enough solder so that the pin is definitely connected to the circles, the metal inside the circles. Um, Obviously, experts already know this, so whatever. But you don't want to add too much, otherwise you'll just end up flooding it out, and the solder could actually kind of spill out towards the bottom. So you want to avoid too much, but it's not hard to get right. With stuff like this, too little is better than too much to start because you could always check with a multimeter. You could always easily add new, whereas trying to remove solder from something like this could be a giant pain. Okay, soldered all the ones inside the circles, tinned, ground, and Luma. So let's pause for a moment here. And I'll pull back. And let's just make sure that this still works and I didn't break it. And but I mean, theoretically, that should be the whole installation. We shall see. And it retains all original functionality, so should be able to just plug this sucker in and see. Okay, we didn't break anything. Funny enough, I'm just now realizing that while I fixed the 72 pin connector by replacing it, I don't think I actually plugged a controller in this to test it fully, but whatever, we'll figure that out when we come to it. All right, get my strippers and go from here. Leave my elevator alone. I know you're just being silly, but I talk about Tim all the time. And the NES RGB is still the best overall fully functional mod for the NES because you get everything. And even the new way of getting. Oh, okay, so I guess this could work. Hold on, let me show you what I just did there accidentally off camera. So I stripped this hoping that it would be a shielded cable, but it is not. It looks like it's just two conductors next to each other. So I mean that would definitely work here, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this will work, so we're gonna try it. Because if it doesn't work, whatever, we just desolder it. It's not like it's gonna break anything. Okay. So the other thing that I want to test here is getting the cartridge tray on to make sure that even if this does work, I guess I could turn my iron off for now. So will it fit? And what I'm going to have to do is push this down. And obviously I'm going to come back in for some strain relief after. I just want to make sure this works first. And in fact, I'm going to test it on the OSSC first, only because I've already done that before. So no surprises. And then we'll do some RetroTink testing after. But yeah, is this going to fit, or is that wire going to bunch this up too much? We shall find out in a moment here. And remember, with NESs, you have to wrap the tray over both the metal shielding and the motherboard. Otherwise, it won't fit in correctly. That's a mistake I've been making since I was a kid. All right, so let's get the shot back up over here. We'll plug this in again, and then I'll grab my OSSC and we'll try that and see how that goes. All right, so that's working. Got the good old OSSC ready to go. I'm just going to plug that right into the green. All right, and let's switch over on the capture card and see what we got. Okay. Lumacode. We got to do inputs. That should be here. Ha! Well, shit. You all see this, right? Well, I'm kind of scared because in the history of my live streams, there's not really been a lot of times where I just plugged something in and it worked. Wow. Okay. Huh. This is cool. All right. Well, let's get back in and let's figure out the logistics of the rest of this. Put the OSSC over here for just a moment. I don't know why I turned it off. I could have just left it going. All right. So now this is working. We have a Lumacode modded NES. This is 100% no cut, nothing damaged on the original. I don't get this on camera. So yeah, it'll be a pain to get to the channel switch, but who cares? Because you don't access the channel switch that often. And I'm not even cutting RF. This is a completely, fully functional NES, 100%. So the only things that I want to do is make sure that we have strain relief, which I think, if I just simply run this over here, so got the wire coming from around the post for strain relief, and tug, 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 nothing. I like it. So what I'm going to do is put a few screws back in. Not the whole thing, both for luck and just because. But let me put a couple of them back in. Specifically the longest ones. The longest ones always go, actually, it's probably an important tip. Let me get this for anybody watching. All right. So, if you see the sizes of the screws, almost all of the screws in the NES are that long. But you see this one here is a little bit longer. So, that goes not here, but here. That's the spot that the longer screw goes, and that's kind of the most important part of putting these back together. Oh, wait. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that? I put the second one as, yeah, I put the shorter one in just to show you. And then I put it in the wrong one. That's very funny. Well, whatever. All fixed. So I'm basically just going to bolt the cartridge tray down because that's going to probably be the biggest difference. Maybe I should get the metal shield on too, just to see. We'll check this out in a moment here. All right, so this is nice and solid. I should check the metal shielding around this. There we go. Okay, interesting. I should have put it through here first. Unless I could, well, I don't know if I want to run it over these power lines either. Let's see. You know what? I'll go back and I'll make it right afterwards. But now I'm curious to see if that actually would make a difference. Running it over the power pins like this in an unshielded cable. Because we saw it working. So let me take... let me take one or two screws over here on the shielding side. Just to see. Oh, and did I forget to... Yeah, I could do the RF back in too. So we'll see. If it works like this, I might actually send it to Mike like this, because if there's a problem, he obviously can handle just moving a wire. So not a big deal, but I think that would be cool just for everybody to know, because stuff like this, when you're doing new, installs on new products, you need to know. All right, and when I put the case back on, that post will be flush, so you don't have to worry about the wire popping off like you may have just seen when I was tugging on it. So that should be fine for now. So let's go back to where we were, try everything again. missing. All right, well, yeah, that's obviously still working. So let's go back to the OSSC and try that again. I don't know why I turned the OSSC off. I could have just left it on and we wouldn't have to do any of this again, but whatever. Yes, Lumacode. Well, that's just working. Cool. So here's what I'm going to do. EW, silly joke, but a valid question, but it's absolutely nothing like what you just described. What the Lumacode mod will do, if your goal is to go to HDMI, your choice is to just use composite, which is very problematic on the NES on flat panels. On composite on CRTs, I still love the charm of that, but on flat panels, it's not always what you want to go for. So you'd need to do an RGB mod or an HDMI mod, and then go from there. Both of which are incredibly complicated, and I don't know if they even make HDMI mods anymore. But either way, you have to desolder the PPU in order to get to that. This mod just drops right on top of the pins. You solder it on, and then you run it directly into an OSSC or RetroTink 4K, and poof, now you have HDMI quality, but you're using your existing scaler with all the options you might want. So this is actually a huge deal. Yeah, placing the tape down perfectly was kind of the hardest part. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask all of you to help here. I am going to very carefully and very cautiously start bolting this top or all the screws back in with it running. And if anybody notices any blips on the screen or any interference or anything that you might find from wires getting pinched or stuff, let me know, because remember, we have the wire run around where the power is going through. And it's not truly a shielded cable. To be honest, the NES RGB mod, desoldering the PPU isn't that big of a deal if you've done it before. But if you haven't done it before, you need to learn that skill and you need to buy a desoldering gun. Whereas with Lumacode, you just need a soldering iron, period. But for me, by far, the most annoying part, by far, no doubt, was running all of the signals. So you need RGBS, and then if you're running it to like a Nintendo style multi-out, you also need to run Composite and Luma plus audio, like running the wires. And there's kits to make all that stuff easier. But that for me was always what just took by far the most time. I haven't done one in a long time, but that was the thing that was always a giant pain for me. But desoldering the PPU is something that bugs a lot of people, not because of the challenge of it, but just because it's an extra tool, an extra skill, yada, yada, yada. All right, of course I'm missing a screw. Of course I am. Because how could I possibly have done a live stream without messing something up? So I'm still putting the top on. I'm just going to move my desk here for a minute and go hunt for screws. But same thing, as I'm moving this thing around, see if you could find any, or see if you notice any blips or anything on screen. Oh, found it. Cool. I was lucky. Okay, final screw in here. And I'm also going to do something I probably shouldn't do either, is put the top on and flip it over with it running. Because that could jostle the cartridge. It's probably not the best idea, but it's still just one more step into making sure this is all working right. All right, and I have the wire properly run around the post for strain relief. flipping this thing over. We're flipped. I haven't seen a single blip. I've been mostly staring at the screen. Dr. Lilo, yes, and I will show you that in a second as well. In fact, I'm going to show you that on the OSSC first before we move over to Tink testing. I've been like staring at the across the side of my neck here at these things, trying to make sure I get it all correctly. Uh-oh, I messed one up. Okay, double and triple checking everything. All right, I'm going to flip it back over. All right, now we have everything bolted back together. Everything is the way it should be, I think. Just get my iron out of the way here. All right. So, color palettes on the OSSC. Now, I already did that video going through how to set all this stuff up, so I should probably link to that. But if we go into settings, and where was that? No, it wasn't in settings. No. Here we go. Lumacode palette set. Palette set load. I'm going to go in to what's usually my favorite, the Kitrinks one. Back up. Y'all are seeing this, right? Kind of cool, right? All right, thank you, Dr. Lilo. I was flipping that around right as I said mess something up. And you know what? Let me tap the case here. Tap, tap, tap. Probably hear it in the background. I don't need to say tap like a moron. So far, so good. Hey, Adam. Yeah, that's actually what I'm about to do right now. All right, so as you could also obviously see here, it's still working through composite video, and I'm positive if RF was working before, it's working now, because composite wouldn't work without that. Let me just straighten my little area up over here so I don't lose stuff. Okay. And then I'm going to put the OSSC away and grab, I believe my Tink 2 or Tink 4K Pro is already on the latest firmware or latest-ish. So I'm going to use that, not because there's any limitation though. It should, without a doubt, also work on the CE. I don't think Mike's even had a chance to look at it for 5X yet, and I don't know if that's something that's even going to fit in the code, because version 3 firmware is maxed out, at like absolutely maxed. In the RetroTink 5X version 4 firmware, Mike's always working on, but that's obviously a whole other thing. I'm also going to go wash my hands really quick, and I always announce that just because I don't want people joining the stream to be like, holy crap, is this dude peeing? Did he forget he had his mic on? Nope, just getting the solder grease off my hands before I start touching other remotes and stuff. It'll happen though. If I keep doing this, at some point I'm gonna get old and forget my mic's on and just pee, and it's gonna gross people out, and that's fine. We all pee. All right. I've got the RetroTink 4K, and this will. All right, hold on. Let me move my camera around. Shaky cam warning, everybody. So, with the RetroTink 4K, this will work with any green input. So either green component video, or green over the VGA port, or even green over SCART. It just will not work with composite video in the front because this is Lumacode. So it's searching for all of the signals that accept just pure Luma, which I guess technically composite does too, but whatever. You got 3 other choices on the Tink. You'll be fine. And also, I'm going to grab this. Where's my, I'm missing a Y cable here. All right, well, I'm going to put audio as well. And you just pull audio from the standard audio spot on the NES. And that's basically it. So I guess I could switch over now. Hello, 21707 says on their OSSC, they get a lot of flickers and they get better results with the Pi that Lumacode people sell. So what I would strongly recommend is checking the cable that you're using. Is it too long of a cable? On the inside, do you have a good shielded cable? Or is it like this one that I use that's just mediocre? The other thing, too, is when I'm making stuff for my dev friends, and I always tell them this, and they don't believe me at first, but you don't want the best solution if you're a dev. And I think Mike learned that a decade ago when he was using HD Retrovision cables to do some testing, and I was like, don't. They've corrected a bunch of issues with those, so you're not going to see the same issues. And sure enough, I forgot what it was. I think it was the Tink 5X was released, and a bunch of people started reporting bugs that were all fixed, of course, but they're all bugs because Mike was using the best. So you don't want to use the best. A slightly unshielded cable for something like this should work out a lot of the bugs that we might find. So let's move this up and let's see. So I've never done this before, by the way. This is my first. I wrote the post based on what Mike said. So let's try YPBPR. Okay. And then you got to go in and enable Lumacode and save it as a profile. Hold on a second here. If only there was an article on RetroRGB that, yeah, hold on. I'm learning this in real time with you all. All right. Any of the green inputs. You could select the input via either the YPBPR or RGSB modes. It doesn't matter. Now, advanced settings, sample rate detection, Lumacode. On. Load. NES. Okay. So ADC menu and select the ADC pre-gain. Interesting. Okay. So remember, this is my first time doing it. I could very well be missing something here. On. Oh, that's right. Lumacode even works with the Play Choice 10. That's very funny. Okay. Well, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some testing and we're going to phone a friend. So let's grab my OSSC again. We'll swap back over to that. And let's make sure it's nothing I did. But remember, if anybody was still here or was here at the beginning of the stream, I was talking about how we found that wire and it wasn't fully shielded, and I decided to move forward for this exact reason. Let's help troubleshoot. And I was kind of half expecting a problem because it's not truly fully shielded. And that's a good thing. It means we get to help and test. You swap this over. So same process. Settings. Lumacode. Ooh, interesting. Okay, getting no signal, huh? All right. Let me power cycle the console. All right, so we're getting something. But remember, we haven't loaded the profile on the OSSC yet. Okay, so something blipped here. That no signal blip could be the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K. It doesn't love the OSSC. It likes it. It doesn't love it. So, and I don't have a data path vision connected to this PC. And on top of that, I actually don't even have an extra slot in the PC if I bought another data path vision. It's one of the many reasons I actually put it into the that dedicated PC I showed in the last live stream. So let's mess around with this a little bit and see what we could do. And I'll check chat in 1 second, everybody. So I'm curious to see here. What if we do Firebrand X, Sharp 10X, and then we go over into sample rate detection. Oh, wait, we gotta set input first. Okay, now we'll go back into sample rate detection. Lumacode NES. Oh, hey, look at that. All right, so this is super easy. This is just stupidly easy then. Okay, I get this now. Let's see. Processing effects. Yeah, autofill integer plus, 4:3 aspect ratio, going to 10x. I actually don't think I need any trim because we're doing 10x. But I'm still going to do I'm still using FBX's profile. I'm just deleting all of this because we don't need to because it's Lumacode. Oh, did you all see that? Wait. Okay, so if the trim is off, that also affects the signal, or did that just blip out? Okay, I think this unshielded cable is what's giving us issues. We could easily redo that. But we didn't even have to, where was that? We didn't even actually have to set the gain here. That's very cool. That is very, very, very cool. All right, manage profiles, and we're going to save as new. Let me edit this one here. I'm gonna leave this up while I'm doing this just so we could all see, and if y'all yell if it blips out again. And then I will come right back to the chat, I promise. And I will share this profile as soon as the stream is over. So let's go back here and we'll go manage profiles, load default. Okay. So nothing there. Load from file. Where was that? NES Lumacode 10X. Bam. That's all you need. Now, this is what I'm interested in. What's going on right now? And this is what I think, and then it snapped in. So I think that might be the cable, which we could easily swap that out on the stream, and that should take like 15 minutes. Interesting. And then that, and it always does it in the same place. Okay, let me go back and check the chat. All right, let me read through. Oh, Hello said it's a Saturn S video composite cable that's long. Yeah, if it's a crappy one, that's actually going to create a lot of interference, so that would probably be an issue. Let's see. Is Lumacode the best quality via HDMI as of today? So it's not technically an HDMI mod, but if you're running it through, oh, I see it. I see it blipping too. By the way, I'm watching. But in this scenario, yes, I would say so because of ease of use. And if you already have either RetroTink 4K or either OSSC, then you don't need anything else. Hello, there are no Lumacode profiles. This is the one that I just created. Do I happen to know what HDMI switch should work well when plugged in between many RetroGem modded consoles and the more 4K? Yeah, so there was I'll check the switch really quick. I'll check the link. But there was a switch that from Tesmart, TESMART, that a bunch of people were saying worked well for them for all of that stuff. Let me see if I could drop a link for you here. And then I'll swap this cable out with yeah, that's the one. Here you go. How does the game sound? Well, you're not using audio through Luma. You're using audio through just the NES's audio track or audio output, which it's just going to sound standard. Can it be installed into a console that's also RGB modded? I think so. I don't think there's any limitation on that, but I don't have one to test. Oh, Tux. They had that color shifting also. It helped when they went into the ADC setup. Hold on. Advanced settings. Oh, actually, yeah, I wanted to, since we're here. Cool. Advanced settings, and then ADC. Change subphase to 90. Set decimation phase to manual. Which for some reason it's not giving me that option. Let's try auto phase again and see what happens. Still getting blips, and most importantly now, when I do the power cycle, is it going to come up with that? All right, yes. Oh, well. All right, still blipping. Off, on. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure this is my cable, but this is... So I always joke about my streams going bad, but this is the type of mistake I'm intentionally trying to make sometimes. Like I don't... If this was just a perfect installation, we would have learned almost nothing. So this is the type of stuff I'm happy about. Oh, hello, 21707. There's a Lumacode folder in that firmware. So let me double check this for you, okay? Because you might have found something kind of interesting. Let's Oh, and I think there's actually been Lumacode since this one. All right, so all right, this is all working out great. So let's see here. All right, here we go. We've found a roadblock here, and that is perfect. And thank you for finding this out. Let's download all of these until we get them. Okay. These are good problems. Thank you. Hello, 21707. Go to the download and then download version 151.0, and that's going to have the Lumacode folder in it. So awesome. That is exactly what the type of thing that we needed. and I'll make sure to update all of the posts with that information as well. And I'm also going to update this with the latest 1560 firmware because it has Lumacode tweaks in it. It says, oh, geez. Oh, I missed another big one, a big update. Okay, weird. All right. That was actually a pretty big update. I will write another post about that. All right, updating to the latest firmware, and according to the website, it says Lumacode Enable is now on off and automatically analyzes the distribution of codes and calibrates slicer thresholds accordingly in real time. You could leave the ADC gain in its default position. Okay, that's actually pretty critical. Awesome. We're still updating firmware here, so here we go. So I'm going to go through the same thing I did before. Well, actually, you know what? Let me just go in and just do this manually now. YPVPR, advanced settings, STP sample rate detection, Lumacode, select NES. Okay, and that's with nothing. That's with none of the extra stuff. That's without loading a custom profile. That's with nothing. So anybody that was here before, you probably saw all the extra stuff we had to do to get here. So now let's just go in and let's load that Lumacode profile. Let's see what we get here. All right, I forgot to resave that. On HC NES Auto. So it's better, but I bet you it's still my cable or something to do with that. Okay, Tux has an idea. Set auto decimation, so sample rate detection. Auto. So I don't think I could select set auto decimation to off in this. It's not letting me. And I really am thinking it's the cable. Oh, all right. So Tux, walk me through this then, because I'm not seeing any place to disable this. So sample rate detection, auto decimation phase, that's not doing anything. That's just stuck at auto, no matter what I hit on that. I could try setting that to off. Okay. Go back to the ADC menu. Phase manual. Let's try auto phase one more time just to see. Yeah, I think I'm going to switch the cable out. Before I do that, though, just to your point, I am going to sit here and just do all of the options. I'll wait for this to blip because it always blips here. Hello said they just downloaded the Lumacode folder, only switched the input to YPVPR, turned on Lumacode, and it's working fantastic. So I'm going to try the cable. And Tux, even if you're right, I'm going to try the cable. Hey, Popple, this is the composite video output, still active, still going to a CRT, which I've been loading here for this exact purpose, just so that we all know it's still working, and also so that I could confirm there's no issues there. So I'm going to unplug this and move it over. And let's disassemble this sucker and swap that cable out. You know, normally I would put a pad down, but I have a feeling this is fine. All right, let me grab my screwdrivers. I guess I gotta fire up the soldering iron again, and then I gotta decide on cable shielding and mounting it all over again. And I will continue to check the chat, of course. Oh yeah, if you could only get PPU digitizer quickly. Yeah, also, something to note is Copper Dragon's site is going to charge you an insane amount of shipping costs. That is very obviously not his fault. That's just the global shipping situation. But he is currently working on US distribution, and I will obviously post as soon as that's happening. So, you know, if you don't mind spending a bunch on shipping, fine. But I think you might even get dinged with like a UPS import charge on top of everything else. So at the moment, I would wait until there's US distribution, which hopefully would be weeks away, not months away. Hopefully. But I'm on it, and I'm trying my best to help. I always try my best to help stuff like this. I want everybody to get all of these awesome products available to you. And it's impossible to get it perfect everywhere, but that doesn't stop me from trying my best at it. All right. Well, oh, wait a minute. We were running that right by the power. Let's try this again with the wait, this I forgot all about that. What a moron. This might actually be kind of a cool thing here. Hold on. So let's take this off. I forgot about the power. Let's run this just away from everything and try that again. How the heck did I forget about it? I made a whole point about wanting to do that just for this reason. Dope. Okay. Pause it. That works. So you have an unshielded cable basically going right over the 5-volt line. Something like that's bound to happen. All right, let's give this a try. Ha! Ha ha ha. Yeah, Tuck, sorry, you missed the beginning of this. This was intentional. I wanted to test exactly this, and running it unshielded cable over the power pins is definitely what caused this. That is pretty cool. Let's leave this for a minute. Adam, great question. So if I were to use a shielded, if I were to actually make this a shielded cable, I would personally just use like an RCA cable that has the conductor in the middle and the shield and the ground wire on the outside, and I would just very carefully connect it to the pins. However, um, trying to get it around the NES cartridge slot is the issue. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to power cycle again. It glitched for a second, which is fine. Now I'm going to put this wire back around here. Oh, interesting. Well, now there's just no glitches at all. But it had to have been that. It had to have been the shielding pushing up against those pins. All right, let me think about this. I'm going to put this up here so we could view this, view both at the same time. Let me think. Let me think. Because the goal of this is still to have a no-cut mod, which is very easy. I'm just trying to think what would be the most conducive at the moment. And I think I'm going to have to desolder it no matter what because of going around that metal shielding. I don't think, well, I don't know. Let me try up here. Let me unplug the power just while I'm doing this. And I'll go back and try again with this. So do you all see, hold on, let me move this out of the way real quick. All right. So I think this is going to be the better way to do it. And I didn't even have to desolder anything because I just pulled the cable up through there. And now it is no longer touching any of the pins. The wire is just kind of up and around. And you could sort of kind of see on the inside. Let me grab a flashlight here. You could see on the inside how the cable's just kind of up and right out of the way. So it's not touching anything. It's going right up into the hole of the cable here and out the side. So I'm going to try bolting this back together, and we'll all look at this again and see. Popple, why? Oh, you've got the Nintendo drawer in yours. I don't think it would be an issue. You might just have to get a little bit tricky. And yeah, Tux, I know you came in later on in the chat, but yeah, that's all set. So the everything's grounded properly on the board itself. And I'm even adding extra strain relief here. Let me put that in. Let me try leaving it like this. All right, I'll plug this in. Let me raise this up. And actually, yeah, let me try one more thing here. All right, so manage profiles, load default. Okay, so we're back. Now we're going to load NES Lumacode 10X, which of course I'll share once this is done. Turn the sucker on, blips for a second, which is totally normal, and everything's good. So it was exactly what I had. Even though I stupidly forgot for a minute, this mistake was exactly what I'd hoped for. This was trying to figure out when we might see different issues with this. So I could bolt all this back together. And as I'm bolting it back together, shout out in the chat if you see any glitches. Retro Nihilist, yeah. It's definitely not Copper Dragon's fault. No chops busted. Just another point to make. If you're doing a full NES restoration, which this is not, obviously, you're going to want to start with a recap. And then after the recap, you want to seriously consider the RF box. You want to open up that metal shielding of just the RF box, and you want to double check and see, does this have a leaking capacitor? And it almost certainly will, so you have to replace that too. But then you're going to want to decide, okay, how bad is it? Did it damage the board? Could this potentially be an issue in the future? Am I worried about this? Will I ever use RF again? And if you decide you're not going to use RF, you could actually continue to have a no-cut mod by removing that board, using the one from Zaxor. And Zaxor even has one that has an RCA jack where the RF one was, so you could actually route Lumacode and still have it a fully functional no-cut mod. Now, the other final option you could do is everything that I just said, change all the caps, but you could cut the trace to RF in this board and just use Lumacode. And if you did that, you could always reverse it. But the problem that I have is the same problem I have with all of these mods, is that all makes a lot of sense right now today. However, what happens 10 years from now when somebody's like, oh, cool, you have an old NES. Well, look, let me plug it into the CRT with RF and just make sure it's working. Oh, I'm not getting a signal. Oh, I guess it's broken. It's going in the garbage. Whereas, you know, if you have a wire dangling out the back, it's like, okay, this thing's obviously modded. Let me take a look and see what mods were done. No glitches, right? All right, I'm going to put the top back on. Oh, and I should actually just real quick here. So it's coming out there, and then it's routed around that post and out. So when I tug on it, it's tugging on the post. It's not tugging on anything else. Yay for strain relief. Right. I'm going to flip this sucker over, bolt it back together, and I think we might just have a winner. Let me turn off my iron because I didn't actually need that. All right, were there any glitches while I was putting this sucker together? Shadow mask, yeah, it does. If you do a nice clean install of the SNES multi-out, it does kind of just feel like it was always there to begin with. I didn't notice any glitches either, so let me grab a couple of audio cables to do some testing here. Basic Y cable. And I'll grab an NES controller, and then we'll reboot the whole thing and try again just to make sure there's no... Actually, I'm going to do that again right now too. And the initial glitches that you see right on power on, that's 100% normal. That's the tank scanning and automatically compensating for. All right. I also want to check color palettes and stuff too, but this is exciting. Oh, I just saw one little glitch. But this is also the NES, so let me bring this back to full sized. Controller. All right. So I am seeing some blips and glitches here. Let's also raise the volume so you could hear mono audio. Please let me know if this is too loud or not loud enough or something. All right, let's go with the color palette changes here. Gamer, yes, the SMS one does work. It's currently untested on the tank, but that's the next one I'll be doing, hopefully in a week or two. Sample rate. Wasn't there custom palettes for this too? I thought there were custom palettes as well. Yeah, I'm seeing glitches now. Alright, well, let's go back to the beginning here. Oh, Retro Nihilist. Yeah, that's the whole point of my video. So the Master System does put out RGB natively with just a cable. However, it sucks. So you could do it, and if you're actually doing something like an RGB mod for the purpose of having RGB and eventually going to a scaler too, then it's actually great, and I have no problems with that. But if your goal is only HDMI, doing the Lumacode mod is easier. I wonder if it's a heat thing. I wonder if since it's heating up, the cable's doing something weird because it's not a fully shielded cable. And it is not glitching on the composite video monitor, which is the other reason why I really wanted to have both of these going at the same time, because it could obviously just be the NES. But it's not. It is definitely not. Alright, so what's changed? I have a bunch of wires running across each other here. Let me try over on this. Try it again. Y'all are seeing this starting to glitch a little bit, right? This is interesting. And once again, both Copper Dragon has made it very clear to basically not do what I'm doing. I just kind of wanted to push it a little bit far and see what happens here. Retro Nihilist, I didn't use what came with the kit. So that's probably what this issue is. I reviewed the RGB blaster. It's awesome. And if you would need a top-loading Famicom, though. Or, yeah, top-loading NES or Famicom for that to work. It's excellent. But that's not for front loaders. All right, well, let's pop it back open. And we could try a couple of... Actually, you know what? Let me see if I still have a RCA connector I could use, because this might actually be a interesting experiment. Is it a length thing? Yeah, I want to... So, if you're new to any of these streams, a lot of times I really just try experiments just to learn so I could have information for other people. And that also means that often I just fail a lot. But that's kind of the point. Because if I had just installed this and everything worked perfectly, what really would we have learned? Not a whole heck of a lot. So I am going to try, if I could find a spare RCA cable, I could try just shortening this cable and going from there. And I know I have spares. Y'all just got to give me a quick moment here. I know I have spares for this exact reason. I used to have the little RCA adapters that you could just solder to, but I think I may have used them all over the years. Alright. Let me grab another box and see what I can do here. Hello, where are they again? Let me fire this back up just so I could see that beforehand. You said they're in a custom NES folder in the Lumacode directory. How do you access them though? Oh, NES custom. So how do you assign them then? Let me see. Would that have to be oh, 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 oh. Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll come back to that. Thank you. So we're instead of choosing NES, choose NES custom. I appreciate that. Okay. So let's try. Um, let's try snipping this down and turning it into an RCA input or receptacle. I don't. We'll figure it out in a second here. Yeah, might be worth it. Let's see what else we got in here. That's probably perfect for testing. All right. That's funny. This just fell out of something. It's got screws on the bottom, so a solder tip to something. I don't know what that could have gone to. Well, that'll just have to sit in my what the heck pile. Oh, and I found the shielded style cable I was looking for to begin with. All right. Well, I'm sad I took up everybody's time who was hanging out, and I'm sad that this means I'm probably going to have less stuff to be able to accomplish today. But I'm actually happy about these fails because this is the exact type of thing I've wanted to demo to see. Because when I did the Lumacode through switches, I got 0 issues whatsoever. And I was kind of hoping for one just so I could show people the threshold. But no. All right. Let me check the chat too. Gamer has the PPU digitizer, Tink 4K Pro, and NES. They could do this today. What cable type is connecting the NES to the Tink? That's what you should stick around for, because the length of the cable and the shielding of the cable matters the most. And this is why I kind of failed on purpose on this one, because just like I tried to do with the Switch video, because I wanted to see the threshold for these. Because if it's done right, it's not really a big deal. But how do we know what the limit of done right is if we don't know what wrong is, you know? All right, let me... I'm going to see if I could be lazy and use this as a temporary. All right. All right, cool. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this cable and just snip this much off of it. So we have a ton of cable just removed from the equation. And then I'm just going to use, actually, you know what, for this test, we know that works. So let me try a shielded cable. And that's what I meant by shielding before, is where the shielding is on the outside and the conductor is on the inside. Let's see if this makes a difference. And if not, I'll try the other one. Okay. I actually don't even know which one's which on this, so we'll find out in a second. All right, so that's switching over to a much more shielded cable. Same length, but different kind of shielding. I mean, so far so good, right? So let's try some other stuff that messed it up. So first, I'm just going to go back into Manage Profiles, Load Default. Load this one. Alright, that's cool. Yeah, that's probably a better... Yeah. And we'll go in. Advanced settings, sample rate detection, load preset, custom, and let's just try them. Interesting that the customs aren't working. Oh, that one sort of is. Alright, let's see. I'm just going to go through them all. Oh, wait, that one corrected itself. So let's try... Is it just a matter of having to wait a couple seconds for it to dial in? Let's give it a minute. I'll stop being so impatient. Nope. Yeah, this is cool. So that was all it was. I didn't even have to open that back up. And in fact, on the output side, I think I'm just going to use a female RCA thing. Let me see if I could find an Amazon link to those. 'Cause I thought I had a whole bunch of these. Yeah, let me drop this in the chat and tell me if you all know of a better one. Because I did a basic search and this seems sort of kind of okay. Yeah, this one. It did just glitch briefly. Okay, hold on. I'm going to keep playing. Don't care. So that's a trick question. With the global awful shipping situation, you're going to pay more in shipping than for anything else. But there is going to be more distributors soon, and including US distribution. So depending where you live, if you could do this yourself, which this is a very easy mod. I kind of worked this on purpose with the cable length and routing. It's a very easy mod. So if you could do this on purpose, $50. And you need either a RetroTink 4K, either one, or either OSSC. Yes, you could absolutely run it to the RCA port, but then you lose composite video. And then kind of what I was saying before, what if somebody goes to use this console a couple years from now, plugs in composite and gets nothing? What's going to happen then? So I always like to do stuff a little different like that. No, it's actually cheaper than the NES RGB. So if you already own or are planning on getting either of the Tink 4Ks or the OSSC on its latest firmware, or and you're not going to RGB, you're just going to HDMI, this is definitely the better mod. Just because of cost. And that's, I'm not throwing shade at Tim. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of that stuff. Do jail bars or power ripples show up in Lumacode? They're not seeing any noise. No, and in fact, let me just, here, hold on. Let me see if I could do something else for y'all here. So, I am now going to switch. Wait, no. Hold on 1 second. So let me play through composite video using the same type of scaling. Let me make sure the 3D home filter's on. Let me put that on. And autofill integer plus. What was that? 7, right? Yeah. All right. So same basic setup. Let me play through composite video. I should put up a sign, this is composite video, just so people don't join the chat and be like, why would anybody deal with Lumacode for this? Nope, this is composite. So you could see jail bars, you could see, and this is even with the good comb filter and the Tink 4K Pro's good processing. That's pretty awesome. But now, let's switch back over. And plug Lumacode back in. And here's Lumacode. Yeah, if you have your Sharpie... Oh, wait, glitches. What, am I touching anything? Am I moving anything? Okay, this is good. I wanted more glitches. Alright, this is actually a good thing. Let me, Perfect. I'm going to leave everything as is. That's exactly what we're doing here. I know you just joined, Master Safer, by the way, but that's exactly what this is. I'm quite literally dangling a wire out the back of the NES here, and all original functionality is still retained. So you still have NES Composite, you still have NES RF if that's your jam, but you also, let me get these wires out of here just at the moment. All right, so what I'm doing now, don't ever do. This is not a good idea. But that's the Lumacode wire just hanging out the back. And I'm going to use this pigtail here to shorten it up. But I'm doing it with the console on and warmed up, if you will. Okay, not touching. Let's swap this back. Did I blow anything out? Well, that's not good. There we go. Hold on a minute. That is a bad RCA adapter. That's not anything to do with the Lumacode. Okay. I'm just now realizing this was the one, the HD Retrovision one, I was going to jokingly send back to Steve. Now I got to throw that in the garbage. All right. So I'm going to take this one from before and do the same thing, because this isn't shielded and this is a probably 20-year-old wire anyway. So I'm just going to snip. So now we've removed this total length of the wire, probably 4 feet. I'm just going to toss it because we don't need that. Open this up and we'll go from there. And if we don't get any glitches on this, I might actually end up just sending it this way. By the way, anybody saw that Amazon link that I posted? Was that something you would recommend? Anybody used anything like that? Okay. So if this works with no glitches, and I'll give it like a good 5 minutes or something, I'm just going to put a RCA receptacle on this end, just like the ones I dropped in the chat, and ship it that way. And if it doesn't work, I guess I'm going to have to open it back up and use the cable that Reinhardt sent with the kit. Copper Dragon. Should have my other pair of glasses for this. I guess I'm gonna have to. Thanks, Elliot. I was actually looking more for like form and function, like because some of those things, like they have death grips. I just threw out 2 expensive cables because it pulled an RCA connector out of one of my components. I was mad about that too. And then I did that thing that most nerds do where I'm like, should I throw this out or could I use it? And I'm like, dude, you almost just ruined something that you cannot afford to replace over a cable that you can afford to replace. Throw this sucker out right now. There we go. All right, let's see. Did that do it? No signal. Of course not. Interesting. Okay. I wonder if there's something up with this wire. Because I wanted something a little glitchy, but this is a bit much. I wonder what the heck's going on. Maybe the wire is just old and oxidized or something. I mean, I've definitely seen that before. One more shot. All right, well, I guess we're going to have to open this up and try for a real fix then. Power. That's funny. And to think, like a half hour in, I was like, oh, we're done. It's going to be a short stream. Oh, Tito just did a retro tap video. I didn't realize I've been doing this. So I know Kyle pretty well, and Kyle's not going to release anything unless he kind of deep dives it. He's obsessive in a good way when it comes to stuff like that. So the retro tap is a device that I normally would, in any other circumstance, never recommend ever. But because of the loops or the hoops that Kyle has jumped through to make this as good as possible, I'd actually be willing to bet it's awesome. So I'll try that one out. I personally haven't covered it for completely unrelated reasons. It's the same reason I don't cover a lot of other stuff. Is for larger companies, I get very annoyed about an announcement for an announcement, and for smaller companies, I don't want to put any crazy pressure on a dev. So a dev comes out and says, yeah, it looks like everything's scheduled for release in June. And then all of a sudden the world collapses around all of us, and companies aren't shipping on time. There's lots of stuff going on. So there's no fault of the developer at all. But at that point, now everything's delayed for months, and it just looks like a delayed product. So that's why I'm very careful about announcements for announcements and stuff like that for all those reasons. Did the batteries just die in this thing? So, yeah, this is why I always do that unplugged. Did you see that just land right on the power pin? All right, so I'm glad we did all this. I'm sorry we wasted time, but I'm really happy that we got a fail scenario, so we know exactly what that looks like. But also, for anybody else who might be doing these mods for their own console or not, the fail scenario might not be noticeable for a couple of minutes after the console warms up. So while I really would have rather been moving on doing something else, God, it's 12 o'clock already. This is why I don't get anything done. If you all are wondering why there's so few posts on RetroRGB relative to the cool stuff going on, this is why. This is what life is like for me, even off stream. I love it, by the way, but... Alright, take all this off. If I have time today too, which I'm not going to do on stream just because there's so much boring waiting and everything else, is lag testing at least one new controller that showed up. I'm very, very lucky that I got friends that are just like, hey, I don't know if this thing is any good or not. Could I drop ship it to you, have you test it, and then send it to me? It's like, yeah, I would absolutely love to not spend tons and tons of money on things I don't really need just to be able to do a post. So yes, please send them right over. It's funny too, because occasionally, not even occasionally, a lot when I do stuff like this, I get just trolls in the comments like, you didn't disclose that this was given to you for free. This is an ad. You're lying. I'm going to report you. It's like, no, that's absolutely not true. This was lent to me by a friend, not the company. And I don't have to disclose shit. Right. Yeah, I don't know what was up with this one. I'm going to toss this too, though. Because this is, so from the same cable, right? Here's the inside of the cable. In focus? Yeah. So you could see black individual connector for ground, yellow for signal. This is this cable that it came off of. Look at the end. Did I just strip off too much here? Yeah, so something was up with this old ass cable anyway. So what I'm going to do this time is take this cable, which should have the shielding the way I had expected. And run it the same way, but this time I'm going to run it through the metal shielding too. So when I put it back in, the shielding will come this way. I'll have to still be very careful with strain relief, but that could come, or do I still want to just do it like this? Actually, up top does keep it away from all the extra power pins. And you could just separate this to get it in. So I think that's what I'm actually going to do. Running it through the same spot. Going to keep the length for now, just because. Tin the sides of this. Oh, that's right. I need my... You know, all kidding aside about the, massive amounts of CRTs I have, my explanation for that is always the exact same. And because I've had friends and family who've made comments over the years about this stuff, and my response is always the same. Would you open up the back of a plumber's truck and go, "Oh my God, why do you have all these pipes and wrenches? Do you just like play with pipes and wrenches all day?" Or do you go, "Oh, that's I guess most of us, most people wouldn't say anything. They just expect that that's the way it looks. And I think us nerds would probably go, "Oh, cool. How's this work? Do you keep a stock of these? Are there standard sizes?" Like real questions. You wouldn't think like, "Oh, do you just play stuff all day long?" No, they're working. And that's what I'm doing. Every one of those CRTs I have has a completely different purpose and use case. I guess even if you don't do it for a living, it's kind of the same thing, right? Why do you have all those sockets? Do you really need 200 sockets? Well, yeah. What if there's all those different sizes, all those different bits, all those different, Okay. All you need is an adjustable wrench and duct tape. So, all kidding aside, for basically my whole childhood, the only tools I had were a large Swiss Army knife and needle nose pliers, and that was it. In fact, this right here, this was my Phillips head screwdriver. This was my flathead. This was my saw. This was my knife. It used to have a toothpick, tweezers. I don't know what happened to all those. That, my whole childhood, that was my tool set with a pair of crappy blue needle nose pliers. And that was everything. And then I got a wood etching kit that I somehow turned into a soldering iron. And I found that years later. I found it in a box and used it as just a B-roll picture on RetroRGB for a soldering iron. And a couple of people were like, "Hey, you know that's a wood burning thing, right?" I was like, "No, my whole childhood, I did not know that was for burning wood and not actually a soldering iron." All right, well, that's a solid ass connection right there. Big time. Let me get a close up of this for you. Okay. You know, I tried doing this without the without unbolting the RF box, and I just this second decided I don't like that, and that wasn't a good idea. Let me just unbolt this, even just a little bit to get it to shift. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think I gotta take the whole thing out. That's what I get for being lazy. I'm just trying to go nice and slow and easy so I don't end up hitting that wire that's in there or doing anything I don't want to do. There's no reason I need to rush this. This is the pain in the butt part. Let's just get this in nice and easy. No pinches. Everything lines up. Hey Sims, so everything was a total success. What I'm doing right now is uh uh, and I used both the OSSC and the RetroTink 4K. I'm not using the Copper Dragon RGB to HDMI thing. I will use that at some point in the stream just to test it out. But for now, I'm just using the two scalers. And for anybody joining right now, this was like the actual mod and RetroTink testing was a total success. And the failures were mostly intentional in that I was trying to figure out what the repercussions of using long, unshielded, beat up old cables were, and we found out the answer. It sort of works at first, and then will glitch out after a while. So I'm going to try it now with this one and see if I get any better results. And this should be perfect because it's got the style of cable where the ground is wrapped around the signal. It is by no means longer than the length it's supposed to be. So this should all work out, but you know, famous last words. All right, so I got double strain relief. First cable coming through here, perfect. Then over this post, also good. And I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, whereas I power it on and we'll watch for glitches as it goes. I'll even connect the audio the same way I did before, just so we have apples to apples connection, even though I don't think that would matter at all, but what do I know? That's why we're testing. Right. That's here. Plug this into the RetroTink. Connect the Lumacode cable and see what we got. Well, uh-oh, what did I blow out? Oh, don't tell me that my RCA cable's messed up. Or the port on the tank or something. Well, that's absolutely hilarious. Let me try something else real quick. Huh, I wonder if my Tink screen port got messed up. Why didn't, random question from Elliot, why didn't the Sony Watchman ignite a little more fire into the industry? I don't know. That's a good question. So what we're going to do is load the profile. Sorry, my Tink is in a weird position. So, all right. So load from file. And then we have to switch inputs, obviously, because it's now a different input. All right, let's let this go for a couple minutes and see. Sims, Mike could potentially port this into the version 4.0 firmware. That's a slow work in progress for all the right reasons. Um, and if you already sold your OSSC, and the OSSC wouldn't have worked in pass-through mode anyway, so that might not have been the best bet for you. But yeah, I think this is a good idea. I think the RGB to HDMI adapter that he sells is a good choice if you don't really need any extra features. If you're just looking to get 1080p out, then I think that's absolutely perfect. And I think you could even use like a Raspberry Pi to get 4K out if you wanted to. But for me personally, I think your average person would probably benefit from just using a RetroTink or an OSSC. Ooh, is that still running? I dropped my screwdriver. Okay. All I wanted to at least get the shield on, just because that's just to let it warm up, but also to make sure that there's no pinched cables. Because once I put the plastic top on, there's really, I don't think I could pinch the cable in that scenario. So I'll do this here. All right, so the only thing that's not on as of right this second is the plastic case. I'm going to go wash my hands again because I got solder stuff on them and I don't want to get my controller all goopy. So once again, this is not me peeing. This is hand washing for anybody just joining. Anybody else that ever has a flux pen that sometimes leaks knows exactly what I just dealt with, Johnny. It's like getting tar off your hands. All right, let's see. Are we glitching yet? Let's give it a try. Edge enhancers. Good question. I don't know. He should have been done by now. They should have been up for sale. I think I vaguely remember him putting them up for sale twice. And once he messaged me on like a Friday night, like, hey, I'm putting them up for sale. And I was like, all right, I'll write a post tomorrow when I have time. And they sold out before I even had an opportunity to. And I think another time he said he was going to message me, but I don't know if he actually did. So maybe they sold out again. I mean, I kind of have hope that's the case because that just means that people understand the importance of that mod, but it also sucks because what about all the other people that want to buy it? I'm not seeing any glitches this time. Good point. Hello. RGB to HDMI is small, and you could actually integrate it right into the NES, and that's what I'm going to be doing at some other point, just as a proof of concept, and also using that clear retro game restore case because that's 100% the scenario in which I cut away. That thing has a slot already there for whatchamacallit, for the NES multi-out, so you could absolutely use an HDMI mount there. I think it would be great. Oh, not fast enough. Yeah, exactly. If you do the Lumacode mod, you don't have to worry about composite at all anymore. Let me see too if I can get advanced settings, audio input. There we go. Please let me know if the audio is too loud or anything like that, okay? All right, so I'm gonna just throw the top on this thing really quick just for posterity. Flip this sucker over, check for glitches in the chat if you could. And after this, I'm gonna try a couple more profile things just to see if we get the same glitches, and I'll also send Mike a timestamp if that's the case. But I think this was an awesome stream. I wish I'd remembered. I wish I had immediately popped that cable off and swapped it with it. You know, I shouldn't say that. I wish there were more hours in the day. That's what I wish, because I learned so much about the cable types and length, and when you do and don't have to worry about it here. So this was a good stream. I think this is, it might end up in a kind of shorter post, but when I do the Lumacode video, I'll be able to use footage from this and even just kind of show people what to look out for. All right, flipping it back over. No glitches, I think, right? Hey, Ruggers. Sims, yeah, let me drop that in the chat real quick for you. And what I'm about to drop in the chat assumes that you actually have a shielded cable like I did, so it would not work if you did the other method I just showed, but check that out. I'm playing through an OBS window, everybody, too, so cut me a little bit of slack here. And I'm also looking for extra sprites on the screen and stuff like our sprites lining up. Basically, I'm looking for reasons for Lumacode to fail. You put a PPU digitizer into a top loader the other week. And use the quick OSSC setup guide. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear everything was easy. Alright, I'm going to switch games real quick. See if I got another one I could... Right. No, I was not blowing the cartridge. I was blowing a cut piece of wire that had landed. Alright. I'm terrible at this game anyway. No lag. I should, you know what? I should show that in the video too. Let me, Is wrapping a signal cable in aluminum foil a cheap workaround? If it's properly grounded, yes, but don't forget about impedance of wires, and there's a lot of factors involved in this, which is kind of why good cables are so hard to make. Alright, let's try the different custom presets again. Alright, so that worked. It just took a moment. No, they're all working now. Well, that's awesome. Do I know Voltar's preferred contact? Yeah, don't. Such a grumpy shit sometimes. Oh wait, that worked. Did I CXA wave beam. So they're all working. This was the one that yeah. So that really did come down to shielding interference. That's all that was. And the Tink might be a little bit more sensitive to it than the OSSC was, but whatever. I'm terrible at this game, so I'm just going to play for a little bit, but I think the stream's over in a good way. And I will have the Lumacode folder and profile available on the next post, which should be today unless something goes terribly wrong. And that way, anybody who wants to do this, you no longer really have to worry about getting it from the Lumacode folder from the previous firmware. I'll have it just right in mine. And I'll also be doing a Master System 2 weeks, a week, whenever it shows up and I have time to do the testing. And the Master System one is going to be really interesting because that's going to be the one where I show cost differences. So if you're going just to HDMI and not at all to RGB, it'd be way cheaper and easier to just do the Lumacode mod. I think. I've never done it before on SMS, and I've never seen anybody do it before. So I'm wondering, because you have to calibrate the RGB levels, so I'm wondering if that'll actually make a difference. Oop. Oh, come on. Well, I don't see any glitches, right? Belmont, what's going on? Good to see you. Sims, Zaxor's RGB bypass is the only one I've ever seen that actually fixes SMS. All the work Voltar and I did years ago, we never got it consistent. We got it, but it was never consistent. And I don't know what we missed. I don't know if it was a motherboard revision. Maybe I screwed something up. Obviously, that's always a possibility, but Zaxor got it. So I'll be showing his in the upcoming video as well, just to show people that if you do actually still need RGB, then his is definitely the one to get, because now you have clean RGB. And I'm actually wondering if you could do both. I gotta talk to Reinhardt about that, because I don't know if you could do both a Lumacode and an RGB mod in either of these systems. Oh, what a moron. So, on the NES, and this is what I'm about to say is 100% guessing, everybody, so this could just be dead wrong in every way, but my guess is that on the NES, you could have the NES RGB and the Lumacode mod installed at the same time, because of where the points are tapped. You're not really doubling the load, because that's not the way the circuit works. If you were, then Composite wouldn't work right, which it obviously does, because I showed that the first, 90 minutes of the stream. Composite was always running in the background. So I'm not really worried about that so much. But with the SMS, there's a bunch of other things involved. So, yeah. And Elevator, I thought that as well. All right, so any questions or anything from anybody before I go? Because I think this is a total win, and I'm just happy that I got a chance to do all this stuff. I'll hang out for another minute. Uh-oh. Alright, my computer glitched for a minute. Zaxor power block. If you install the RGB mod, you have to choose RGB or Lumacode. No, hello, actually, you could just... Wait, no, you're right, you're right. You have to get Lumacode out the way I have it, not through the power block. Yep, you're totally right. Yep. Lumacode versus high def NES. I would say Lumacode because high def NES didn't have a direct output option, and that's kind of the big deal for longevity, because it's one of those things where, like, remember when the high def NES came out, that was awesome. Most of us were using 1080p TVs. There wasn't advanced scalers, crazy mask emulation. There wasn't BFI options. You didn't really think you needed anymore. And that's why I kept asking Kevin, hey, could you please add a 240p mode? Because things are going to need to change in the future. And he was like, yeah, whatever. I like Kevin a lot, by the way. I'm not really making fun of him that much. But so that was kind of the issue there. And then now it's like, okay, so you could put it in a RetroTink 4K and use decimation and create a custom profile, but Lumacode, that just sends the raw signal. So whatever scalars we have now could just decode that and do what we do with them. So yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to end this on like a final look. So here's what we got. We have a completely stock NES. Composite and audio still work, and in fact, that's how you have to get audio with this. The RF still works, and you all saw the strain relief from before, so that's tugging on the post that's right here. It's not tugging on the mod. And all I have now is a shielded cable that's just going to be neatly folded up and ready to go. And here we go. That's in fact, let me grab a twist tie so I can have it all nice and neat. So that's it. 100% no cut mod, fully reversible in every way, does not remove any functionality at all, only adds Lumacode, nothing is removed. And I believe it's, I thought I had done the test before that it was completely zero latency, but I will do that for the main video. And I think the best way to do it is to put that super low latency Titan Army monitor next to this and just have them side by side with a 1,000 frame per second camera, showing that you're probably only going to see the 3 milliseconds of lag that the Titan Army monitor has. Leaving myself a note about the lag test here before. Yeah, I just realized my camera wasn't on that. What a moron. Here you go. So that's your Lumacode mod. Proper strain relief, don't worry. All right, you're all awesome. Thank you so much for joining me for this. I really do appreciate it. So much cooler doing these with you all. And I'll have a follow-up post soon.